case, more leather goods. It's not more leather. We've got enough leather, particularly skin-based leather. Hide, yes, we have to do a lot of work on it. But we're saying more leather goods. The reason is that if you take 1 square foot of leather, and you can ask the experts, some people here were making bags for years in Kano. So if you ask the expert, they tell you, you buy it like 100, 150 naira, 1 square foot of skin. But if you transform it into product, depending on the name you attach it and how well you finish, it can cost between 5 up to 50,000. So you can see the multiplier effect of value addition is lost by the fact that we are sending the leather away. We are not concentrating where the real money is. And in terms of engagement, the average thing is to make 4 shoes in a day, it requires 2 to 3 hands. Now, that is lost. That engagement is also lost. You can imagine if we are doing 100 million pairs of shoes per year, how many young men and women can we engage? How much money could it come to them? Just yesterday, I was given the statistics. When I was saying that whoever was here the last 24 must have used a product from these 2 value chains. Either you ate meat, and if you don't eat meat, you must have worn something made out of leather or skin. Now, the issue is, if you count 160 million Nigerians, discount 60, and say this 60 million don't use anything to do with leather, at least you have 100 souls that either wear leather shoes, or sit on a leather couch, or in a leather coated seats in their cars upholsteries, or wear leather strap on their watch, or pouch of their handbill. I'm not going to talk about women because they buy shoes in number. They're not like Andy, who buys 1 shoes in a year, because it doesn't matter how you see him. What matters is that he is Andy. But women want to be something else. They want to buy more shoes, more bags. Every dress has its own shoe. I've been wearing these shoes with all the dresses since we started this. But for women, they will want to have, what do you call it, ashobe, or what do you So every set of dress will have a bag and a shoe, and if they can, they wear a wristwatch that reflects that color of the closet. So head tie, exactly. So basically, what you're saying is that there is a market not only for 100 items because of 100 million people, not 100 million items, but several 100 million items every year. Unfortunately, over 90% of all of that is imported into Nigeria. So we lost. We're giving other people's children job, depriving our own, and from our own resources. That's the problem, and that's the problem we came to address. Now move on. So we categorize this sector into 3. Artisanal tanning, this is a traditional one, and if those of you students of history, if you remember the trans-Saharan trade route, it ended up in Kano, starting from Timbuktu, ending up in Kano. What happens? They bring on salt and potash, and they take leather back. And they take leather from this traditional artisanal tanning, though it's now market players are against them, so they are now being paid away, but they're still there. Then artisanal finished leather goods, I just mentioned the group in Aba, and another group in Onisha, and in Kano, and in Lagos. And for those of you who have gone to Lagos, if you go to Way Street or Alakoro, either Alakoro Market or Way Street. Way Street is a whole street in Lagos that sells leather, nothing more. In Alakoro Market, it's a whole market that I think it says, yeah, only export shoe and leather product out of the country to the West African neighborhood. You just go and take a look and see the amount of what we have. But we had a beautiful encounter that made me cry, not out of love, but out of regret. We had a very nice market that sells spare parts for shoemaking in Onisha. Within the lifespan of this project, that market was selling, well, at the beginning it was selling all sort of things and Nigerian leather. But by the time we finished, that market has turned into selling shoes imported from China and Asia. So all that glamour of made in Nigeria, or at least Nigerian accessory, was lost to import of finished shoes into that market. It's there just by the bridge. You see it in Onitsha, just crossing the bridge into Asaba. You see the markets just by the roadside. Unfortunately, so it's now a market that sells imported shoes. This is the kind of thing we shouldn't allow to happen. And then, no, you can just move on. I think we don't need to. For the artisanal tanners, what we did, one of the key complaints of their skin, that is why it's getting out of the market, is that it smells, because they use local tanning materials. So it smells at the end of the day. We try to look at that, and then we introduce fat liquoring. That's the machine you see there. And it comes out as clean as any leather from any tannery. And that's a sample of the leather there. And we also have worked on the skin. As we go on, you'll see what we did with the skin quality. And James has taken over that, and we're making some progress. Let's move on. Okay. This is the beauty of most of the interventions of James Wan. Somehow they are taken over by other projects because they see the opportunity. MAID is now taking over the development of the BMO in Aba and the production of finished leather goods. And before we left, we were able to get some 300 artisans, some loan from Bankap Agriculture. Now they are now introducing Bankap industry. And I think we have somebody from MAID here. 2 people from MAID. Thank you very much for taking over from there. Same thing, they have done a lot of work to ensure that the BMO remain very strong. And I am told that now, apart from Made in Aba branding, there's Made in Aba trade fair, there's leather trade fair, that this BMO is able to be part of the organizing these things. And then I could see a lot of things, a lot of work online now, rather than just marketing in the marketplace. Next. To prove that, you can look up this. There's now a campaign, Proudly Made in Nigeria, which we started, and then MAID took over, and now it's becoming a thing. And right here in Abuja, you go to CD Plaza, there is a shop, I don't know whether it's still there, I've not been there for quite a while, that brand Nigeria-made shoes of 35,000 naira. And it's written, Proudly Made in Nigeria. This is the kind of things we want to do. We not, I mean, Anna there was sending out bags out of Nigeria to brand names across the world. It's not that we cannot do it, but we didn't give attention to it, or we don't know how to do it. So basically what we're saying is, if we can encourage or continue with this through coordinated activity, we can actually become a powerhouse of leather goods producers within the country. Thank you very much.